hi there, welcome. Hope you've grabbed yourself a cup of coffee for the start of this little conversation this afternoon. I've wanted to learn about Classroom.Cloud, a new product from NetSupport for some time. As you may well know, I co-authored the Guide to Creating a Digital Strategy with Al Kingsley, and we had some fantastic feedback on the first iteration of that. The second iteration came out sort of 4 or 5 so weeks ago. Hasn't time flown by during lockdown. It's been absolutely busy as. But our second iteration came out and had some fantastic feedback. And in my conversations with Al over the past sort of months and months, one of the things we've talked about is their development of this new product, Classroom.Cloud, and I haven't really, I've heard a little bit about it, and you may have seen me tweet out. I was meeting with Ollie Lewis, doing some preparations for the new season of Learn Live UAE, and Al dropped in and talked to us a little bit about it on the launch day. But I've yet to see it in action and find out all the ins and outs of it. And Al found some time in his busy schedule to meet with me today, and I thought, well, rather than spend the time just sharing that with just me, I thought I'd use the tools I have available to me to share it out sort of more widely to the rest of the world. So welcome to this. This is a little live broadcast, pointing in the right direction, a little live broadcast with me, Mark Anderson. It's on my YouTube channel. You might be watching it on there. You might be watching it via Periscope, which is on my Twitter feed. And whilst I'm talking, actually, I'm just going to jump onto my Twitter feed and just make sure that's pinned to my profile. But please get in touch, find out more, and look, really keen to find out from Al what he's been up to and what's been happening at NetSupport HQ, and to get a good picture around this new product. Because one of the reasons why I choose to work with NetSupport is the fact that I think that the products they've got as part of their suite, from Really School right through to NetSupport DNA, and NetSupport School, they're all super useful products to help. And I'll be pleased to hear this. I'm not being paid to say these things. I choose to work with NetSupport, like I do a few other companies like Frog I worked with earlier this week. So I'm really keen to learn more about what Classroom.Cloud can do. But before that, I haven't really had much chance to catch up with Al. He only came in a few moments ago. So I'm going to bring Al into the studio now and welcome him and find out how he is. So here we go. Hi, Al. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Good to see you, matey.
Yeah, good to see you too. What's this you got going on your screen? How are you doing that? That's amazing.
Well, I thought, you've got to play with this technology. So it's a bit like Sky Sports. So I've got my picture-in-picture. So you've obviously got my lovely face sat here, and I've got my desktop in the corner there. And maybe in a bit, I might swap it the other way around, which I'm sure will be for the benefit of viewers.
That's fantastic. So, for our conversations, I know you've been working at NetSupport HQ for some time on this product, Classroom.Cloud, and knowing as we see more and more schools switching their infrastructure to the cloud and using more and more cloud-enabled devices, Chromebooks are hugely popular in the UK, even more so in the US. I can see where your thinking's been going in developing a product like this. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to with it, and what sort of thinking is behind it? Is it different to DNA and NetSupport School? Is it the same thing but different, or what's going on with it?
I think the answer is it is different, but the best products come from evolution. And you know us very well. We've been working for the last 30 years in the education space. And most of our products, I'd love to say come from a spark of genius within NetSupport HQ. But often the catalyst really is what our customers say to us, where their pinch points are, the things that are working well or frankly aren't working well for them within their environment. And we choose to respond and adapt to those. So we've always said we want a product portfolio that addresses each of the different needs that a school might have. And NetSupport DNA sits really at the outside of that kind of core ring. It's the bit that makes sure all of your IT infrastructure, all those devices, no matter what platform they are, they're working as they should be. You've got a good grip and inventory so you can support them. And alongside that, power of technology provides the safeguarding ring to keep everybody safe and secure. And then within that, NetSupport School for many, many years, nearly 27 years NetSupport School's been around. That's our instructional technology designed for classrooms, typically in the physical sense, teacher at front of class, children in the classroom, and you want that interaction, but also the ability to test and assess as you go. It also works, as you'd expect, over the broader, the WAN infrastructure. Really, School's a product which we're really, really proud of. That's very much for early years in Key Stage 1, and that's an assessment tool. We don't tend to set exams, well, for anybody at the moment, very ironic, but we don't tend to set exams and tests for our early learners. We gauge their progress and measure by observation. Are they developing the skills against the framework? And really, School makes it really easy to capture those observations and evidence that young people are developing the skills that they're required to do. So most of those things all kind of tick those different boxes, and alongside it we have our notification product, the school-wide alerting and other bits, you know. But we've always been working very much in the sense of these are solutions to help address different needs and problems in school. And the last 4 months has brought another dynamic into the conversation, which is the, and what about outside of school? Or perhaps a bit of both. That blended conversation that you and I have spoken about, and was one of the catalysts for our version 2 of our digital strategy guide, adding in some extra bits, and we might talk about that later on. But so from that point of view, we kind of said, well, where's the barriers that schools are facing? And I think there were two. There was one about the right tool that would allow the experience of me being able to, as a teacher, see what young people are doing, to be able to critique and comment on their work, to help shepherd them with the right resources to continue their learning, no matter where they were. So that was kind of like a key element that we felt was kind of missing. And then the second part, which is number one barrier to effective use of technology in schools, is the lack of time and resource for CPD to build teacher confidence. You know, we've seen with the COVID journey, everybody looking for fresh tools, but there's never the time to actually give people the chance to embed those skills. You, I know, Mark, have always been an advocate, you know, less is more sometimes. Get some core tools that work well. And the same conversation kind of happens when you start developing technology. You know, you can have a race to who can get the most buttons on a toolbar, but the effective products are the ones that are intuitive, they're easy to use, and they're the ones that really work well. And that's something that's at the heart of the NetSupport way, which maybe is why we've been around 30 years. You know, there are some vendors take an approach of it's like a 100-meter sprint. First to the finish line, dip, and you're done, and you're the winner. But the winner of what? You know, our approach has always been, you know, co-production. At the heart of what we do is working with education, with educators, to shape a product that actually meets their needs. And with that, sometimes it takes a bit longer. Sometimes you decide that actually you need to learn and revise. You need to put your hands up and say, I'm not sure the approach we currently do is a perfect fit. So you go back and you adapt and you revise and you bring something that's fit for purpose. So you know, my view with NetSupport has never been about let's do it quickly. It's about let's do it right and let's make sure it's got longevity. Because the last thing schools need is all these different solutions coming along that have a short lifespan, and they're no better off down the line when they want to build on that platform.
That's really, you know, resonates really well with me. I mean, you and I are good friends and have known each other for a long time, and we do sort of sing from the same hymn sheet. But it goes to implementation. Getting EdTech working in schools it is really, really difficult. And like you've alluded to there, and I share it, you know, that less is more approach. But being really good at a few things and a few things that you know are going to work well. It is a really, really key thing. It goes through actually to, almost like I planned this, but I've just been scrolling around in the background while you were talking. I brought up the actual strategy guide in the background. I should be able to bring it into the stream now. These are some of these sort of hybrid or blended. Lots of terms sort of meet the same sort of thing really here, but these are some key things that we've included inside our guide, isn't it? Are there any of these sort of things that you could actually linked through to things you can do inside Classroom.Cloud app?
Well, you know, let's take a starting point of, you know, all of them play a part. You know, we know that we want to provide structure. We want to be able to shepherd our young people so they understand what the expectations of a lesson are. So being able to clearly show lesson objectives is a really important part, and something I'll show you that we make visible within Classroom.Cloud. Helping that structure and that 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 guide on the side approach of being able to launch URLs and resources to keep them clear, being able to provide visual rewards and feedback so that you're giving that encouragement and reassurance, being able to make sure that the young people are aware of what's expected in the lesson, that kind of giving an overview. All the strands, I kind of think, fall into place into the kinds of, the bits that as teachers, it's the bread and butter, and that interact and engage. You want to be able to chat with your young people. You want less confident learners to be able to silently seek help so you can have a one-to-one with them and provide them with guidance. So having a help feature that we built into the product where we can have a quick one-to-one comms, those kind of things are all applying to different kinds of learners. Being able to create groupings within that lesson so that you can also differentiate and ask expectations different for different young people. I think they're all built into the idea of, is this a pedagogy-based tool or is it just a bit of technology? And let's be clear, because it's something that annoys the hell out of me sometimes. No product suddenly delivers great teaching. It doesn't deliver teaching. Our solution is to provide a platform for great teachers to do what they do best. So it's simply a set of tools that the right person can use effectively. Put it in the hands of the wrong person and it adds little or no value whatsoever.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we hear sort of messages like that from all sorts of people. Michael Fulham talks about it. George Couros has shared it. Put technology in the hands of a bad teacher and you just amplify the weak teaching, put it in the hands of a great teacher and amplify their teaching even further. It's really good to see we got Katri joined us from your team, actually, Al. She said already, thank you for a nice shout out. For Really School, but linking to our conversation, welcome and thank you for joining us, Toria. She's resonating on what we're saying as well, saying less is more being so vital. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Toria. It absolutely is the key, throwing loads and loads of tools at something, like I say, particularly with those teachers who do sort of lacking confidence when it comes to using technology. You want them to be able to use the tools that are available and for them to be tools that are informed by what can actually help and support teachers doing the job of teaching and the job that students have of learning, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's lovely to see Kat saying hi there, but Kat works on the Really School team. She's the product manager, but she previously worked as a primary school teacher. And lots of these things are about not assuming, but validating with those on the front line to make sure the functionality and the way we adapt things is actually fit for purpose, But the exciting thing, if you want to call it that, because it's been a fast track and a lot of work, the exciting thing is creating a platform that can adapt. There's no such thing as a finished product if you're doing your job well, because demands and needs change all the time. So we wanted to create something that was flexible. The more people that use our solutions, the more feedback we get. Therefore, the products get better. They become more usable. And I think that's really the kind of the key of that, being a collaborative developer within the EdTech space.
Absolutely, taking on board the feedback from your users, from your clients, is so important. Thank you for your kind comment again there, Toria. Just by the way, thank you ever so much. I remember going to, and I've been involved in a few of these sort of speed dating sessions for edtech companies. That is not actually looking for a date, but speed dating. that was Saturday. No. But going around, and it was really interesting. One of the first ones I did was part of the TES Global setup, and they had round robins and what have you. And it's funny that the ed techs that we met there, and I won't mention any names because that would be churlish of me, but the ones that were there that listened to the advice are the ones which are still actually, I still see them sort of 5, 6, 7 years on now, still working in the edtech space, still developing their products, still listening to teachers in the classroom and developing their products to meet the needs and demands of teachers and students. Those who didn't really listen too much, and we're very keen on having things in a very sort of tunnel kind of way to try and achieve what they were trying to do. I don't see them in the market anymore at all. And so it's really, and as a business teacher and a computer science teacher, whether it's the product life cycle or the computing life cycle, the iterative process of getting things out to market or getting products out and then looking at what we can do to tweak it, improve it, develop it, iterate it, and improve it. It's never ending, is it?
No, it isn't. And I was given some very wise advice early on, and people often ask me the question about what's the recipe for success for the business being, 30 years in the edtech space. And although it's a bit glib, the simple answer is You know, you're born with 2 of them and 1 of them. Use them in appropriate, combinations. And I think there is that element of we learn a lot from our engagement, and that's always been, as you know, a strategy of our business. When we've done events and trade shows, rather than it being a platform just to push product, we allocate as much of our time and space to invite educators to present, and we listen to them and we learn, and having that constant litmus test, I think, is really key. I have the benefit of working within schools and being involved in different multi-academy trusts, and part of that is you remove the assumption about how things will benefit, and you actually get to validate, and you get to see the challenges and the pressures on teachers. And I do have to do a big shout out today to all the team at Hampton College. Really, really proud and pleased with them. I'm really pleased that our students got the results that they deserve. That's the most important thing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those ones where, if you're involved in the space, you understand, all of us are lifelong learning. And I think that's one of the exciting things about Classroom.Cloud is it's a platform that we're going to be adding all sorts of cool and funky stuff to. Of course, there's some cool and funky stuff there already, but I think that's part of the evolution and the journey.
Well, speaking of this, Al, because you've been teasing me for a long time, can you do a bit of run through? I mean, you say it's easy and it's breezy and you can do this thing, but can you share some stuff? Can we have a look at it in action? Is that possible?
The truth is, I've just got a picture up there and I was blagging it and hoping nobody would notice. But yeah, let me see if I can switch around the other way as he turns to his other monitor. If I do that, you can hopefully see on there.
Fantastic.
A very little me, and I've got the website for Classroom.Cloud. So I'm just going to move that over there a little bit. So Classroom.Cloud, the name kind of sets off the tone of what we're offering: low-cost, cloud-based classroom management. And we have experience in the classroom management space, as many of you know, with NetSupport School, but our focus has always been around the functionality available in the classroom. This is really unshackling the reins and looking at ways that we can provide appropriate and focused tools, but in a browser and cloud-based setting. So if I just tab across here, hopefully you'll see I'm on my resources page. I'm using our internal test system here, so apologies if anything goes particularly interesting, but I shall just claim it's all part of the demonstration, so we'll be fine. So the starting point is actually the most effective tools we found start with ones that are simple to set up, and just as important, simple to actually maintain. And so we start by saying, look, our customers, whether it's in the US and it's school districts, whether it's the UK and it's MATs or a single primary school, we have to have some kind of organizational structure. So we define our organization when we buy our copy or our free trial copy of Classroom.Cloud. And within that, we simply provide some key things. We set up our main settings, and our settings start with things like the configuration, the name and address of our organization and users, nothing particularly exciting there. We set some key privacy settings in there. And Mark, from all of our conversations on safeguarding, it's at the heart of a lot of things we do. So we can control when the system can be used, time of day, to make sure it simply doesn't function out of school hours. We can lock it down to particular networks, so we can make sure that only users, either as the teacher or the devices, will only work if they're on allowed networks. So we can lock it down for in-school use, and then when it's required, if we have a shutdown in the school, or we're thinking about school holidays and we want to use it for revision classes, we can unlock it. So there's lots of flexibility to make sure we've got really tight control over when it's used, even down to our term dates. And the main thing is we create different groups. So although I've got my organization sat here, the important bit actually is my sites. And in here, let's pretend we're a multi-academy trust. And you'll all see I've gone to great effort to be creative in naming my schools for this demo. So I've got my college, school, primary and high school sitting below that. And in each one, I can define my users, whether I've got my administrators, my staff. In this case, I've got one member of staff, who's Al. And I've got a list of devices that are currently connected. And you'll see I've got a mixture here. I've got some Windows, I've got some Chromebooks. Lets me know what device group they're assigned to. And I've also got their status flying right now. And the nice simple thing is I've got my installers defined. You can get them whether it's a single download or you can push them out to your network manager. So you'll see here I've got my Windows student with all my config. I can jump here and get my Chrome student. got my config, I can get it from the App Store, or I can use my Google Management Console to push it out, and so on. And we've got other platforms that are coming through the system as well. So I simply get my installer, either physically install it on my device, or I can push it out with Intune or Google, say, the Management Console. And then once those devices appear, I can assign them to my different device groups. And you'll see here, I've got some device groups that I've created, which are year 1, year 2, and so on. But typically, those device groups would either be something I manually create here, or if I'm a Google school, then with my integration with Google Classroom, basically it will automatically pull down all of my class groups. So if I've logged in with my Google ID into Classroom.Cloud, it will have my students group for my 9 o'clock lesson on a Monday morning, and it'll have all of their Google IDs, so I'm ready to connect to them. If I'm Microsoft, then I can pull down via my school data sync or whatever, exactly the same. So we provide lots of different ways for us to group our students together. Again, simplicity is the key. So once I've got my groups of students, and that's something that can be set up typically in minutes, I'm really at the point where I'm down to actually looking at my classes. And within my classes, if I was a teacher, this is all I'd see. You can see in Kingsley College, I've got a group of classes ready to go. And to create a class, I simply assign which device group of individual device I want to connect to, and I can provide some simple information. So a teacher starts there, and it's my Art 101 class this morning. That container has got in there a list of all the IDs of the students that are going to be joining that lesson. And it's as simple as me saying, right, let me jump onto Art 101. You'll see our little friend, I call him Blue, but his official name is Bob, our Classroom.Cloud mascot, appears on screen to start our virtual console. And it pops in there, and you'll see I'm now in my lesson, and I've got my students in front of me. I've got a mixture of Chromebooks and Windows devices here, just to kind of show you what I've got on the screen. And I suppose the starting point as a teacher is I just want to be able to see what my young people are doing. I want to make sure I've got some input with them. If I want to keep, eyes front of the class, pay a bit of attention, I can do my simple kind of, let's just lock those screens for a second and make sure that they're paying attention, and I can unlock their screens. Nothing particularly fancy about that, really, in the scheme of things. If I wanted to start, looking at what they're up to, then I can jump to my app monitoring, so I can see which applications are in use. You'll see this student's Windows device has got PowerPoint running at the moment. And if they were on PowerPoint, as I just turn away and they jump to something else, maybe they jump to Teams, you'll see it's immediately flipped across. So I can not only see what they're doing in foreground, but just as important, I can see what they've got going on in background. Now, the bit we talked about that kind of framework when it comes to remote learning, about setting a framework and shepherding and stewarding, I can pop on Manage here, and I've got a list of approved apps and any restricted apps. And I can quickly, for this lesson, just say approved apps only, or block any restricted apps. So I can actually control a little bit of what's happening in the classroom. That's really important as part of that process. If I wanted to, I could actually launch an application onto my students as well. So again, controlling what I'm seeing on their devices, keeping it nice and simple, because I can see what's happening with apps. I can also see what websites I've got on my student devices, exactly the same. I can pop in here and I can add a website, and I can launch it on all the kids' machines. So sometimes in lessons, it's only going to take a minute in theory to get everybody onto the right resource. But when everybody's playing around as students, it sometimes takes a bit longer. So that quick, let me just point you to the right location, open it up on your devices, and now you're all on point and ready to go. Can save a whole heap of time. And exactly the same, I can block restricted sites, approved sites, or I could block all websites if I wanted the children to be working on a test or something where I didn't want them to access external resources. So that lets me just kind of manage those bits and pieces. Obviously, one of the things I want to do when I'm working with our youngsters is actually test and assess and get some quick feedback from them. Really handy in a plenary, just to make sure we're clear on what they've done. So when I'm in my survey mode, I could start a quick survey, and I can type some question in here with some answers, or I can have some of my pre-canned ones. So I've got a little pre-canned survey here I'm going to use. What's the capital of Spain? And I can send that to my students, and they're going to get a little box pop up. You'll see the Chrome ones have got their window open, the Windows devices have got theirs, and they can all pop in and give their answers. And I'll only answer quickly on a couple of these here. not the best web demo when you turn your back on everybody, but the intention there was just to show you that I can quickly capture their feedback. You can see the results there, and you can see the little markers giving an indication of what's happening. Again, it's about keeping it simple, keeping it real, giving us a quick chance to capture that kind of feedback. And that allows me to say, do my nice little surveys and keep that on point. If I need to, I can also flip across and have a conversation with one or a number of students, and I can just literally just select a student here and create a chat, and then off we go and have a conversation. And I'll multitask here. My students just popped in with hi sir, and I can have a conversation with them or a group of students. So again, making it nice and simple. If I'm talking away here and doing things, I've just noticed one of my students has put a help request up for me. So I can quickly see that a student's requested some help. Can you please tell me which worksheet I need to complete? So again, this is a little bit about allowing you the students to engage or ask for one-to-one support or stewarding. Again, just building it into the product to keep it nice and simple. I'll close those down. We also talked about the start of the lesson, making sure that our young people were clear about expectations. So I've got my lesson details here where I can set my objectives and expected outcomes. Again, you know, it's no different to setting some kind of rubric guidelines when it comes to a test, making it nice and clear for everybody if we want what we're hoping to achieve from the lesson and what we need to do. Again, just keeps things nice and simple. And even down to, look, I'm going to be going through some bits here. Who am I going to ask? I can actually do things like a random select where it will cycle randomly through all my students and then pick a student that's the one that's been selected. And if a child does well, I can pick a student there and I can give them a reward as part of my kind of feedback to them. So really playing around with that idea that we can kind of, you know, have that conversation, have that engagement. The actual boundary and location of the young people doesn't matter. They can be anywhere. And again, making it platform device agnostic is also really, really key to what we do. I'm just going to go like that. And there you go. I'm back again. So that's a really fast, high-level summary of kind of what it's all about. And again, I kind of think the important thing on this one, Mark, really is about simplicity is the key. Making it really something that they can do, I think is the most important part of it.
Thanks, Al. You've taken a lot of the questions I wanted to ask you and answered them without me having to say anything, really. Simplicity is the key. And what's been really nice from that, and even if you just jump back onto the screen where you can see all your classes, you know, just dual coding, as you'll know, because you're a big fan of using social media, edu Twitter, as it's called.
Yeah.
But the dual coding with the iconography and the spacing and the way in which you've got things laid out there, we know that having those things in place when we're teaching our learners really helps reinforce learning. It also helps with guiding how you're doing things. And so without having to read where my drama class is, I can see from the mask, for example, I can see straight away that's actually going to be my drama class. I can see my creative arts is from the palette, from the sort of paint mixing thing. It's all really, really clear. My science class, my biology class has got the microscope. My chemistry class has got the conical flask. The microscope, it's all there, isn't it? It's really, really, really clear. Yes. Tell me, are there any other features like that where you've used dual coding and icons and all the sorts of things? Are there any other things that you put into the product to make it even easier for teachers to sort of pick up and run with it, to make it really easy and breezy, as you say, to use?
Well, I like my easy breezy. I mean, you can change the color scheme of the whole environment yourself as a teacher. There's different sets that can be applied depending on how you're using it. I think the key thing when we're looking at product is, you know, there's nothing in the design of product that says that you can't make an effort to make it nice and clear and simple and put a bit of love into the way you display it. You know, as I explained, I'm kind of showing you, albeit it only took us a few minutes there, the whole product. But teachers coming in are just going to see my classes for their school. Now, it might be a member of multiple classes. So we keep it really, really clear and simple. They've got one click to their class. If the class list is pre-populated, it's come straight through from Google or from their Microsoft, their school data sync or equivalent, or they can have their IT team create their classes for them. And once they're in, I would argue the two most important things, you know, because time is of the key. It certainly is when you've got 30 enthusiastic young people ready to be engaged and taught and shepherded. It's about ease of use, but it's also about confidence. Confidence that the system will work the way you expect every time. And when you look at that kind of retention curve of effective products that are used, ultimately, if you click on the button and it doesn't always behave the same way, if you click and it doesn't quite give you all the students you're expecting, those are the times where teachers lose confidence in using the tool and will revert to other means. So we've really focused on that idea about, well, let's keep it simple, stupid. Nice, clear iconography, say that kind of dual coding mindset. Click on a single icon, jump you to a class. Your students are all laid out nicely for you. We don't fill it with all sorts of 101 different buttons. In fact, you've not got a header toolbar. It's just those kind of simple bits down the side so you know where you are. And then every feature that you use, again, it's consistent between each component. And that's another kind of mindset when it comes to, I think, to good product design. If you say there's 5 features that you want to use when you're engaging with your young people and their browser web activity, then use those same 5 controls for application use, so that once you've learned to use one, you can navigate the whole product seamlessly. And then I guess, of course, it's money where your mouth is time. Make the product easy to set up and trial so that people can actually use it properly and have confidence in it before they're asked to shell out, albeit a very modest price, to actually have the product and use it. And I think having confidence in your product is the most important thing, but also having confidence and being sufficiently strong in what you're trying to do to say, you know what, if anybody thinks we're doing something or they could do it a better way, tell us about it. And if it's useful, we'll adapt it. Because the majority of the features that have evolved in all of our products over the last 30 years have been ideas from different educators or IT managers or network managers, whatever it might be, who've said, this is great, but wouldn't it be really easy if? Yeah. And one thing I certainly like to do in this kind of scenario is the over-the-shoulder modeling, which is really looking and saying, if we did it this way, that's one less click. That might not seem like a lot, but during a whole lesson or during a whole school day, that adds up to quite a few clicks. And that kind of UI simplicity and thought process, I think, is really, really key to what we try and do.
Yeah, because the thing is, I mean, you showed and demonstrated when you were doing your little demo there the ease at which you can just lock computer screens to get the attention from your students back to you as teacher. But that in and of itself, that and things like the ability to launch a website resource with the click of a button. You've heard me talk many times about marginal gains type approaches. The amount of time that you will cumulatively save when you aggregate all those seconds. I remember when I was teaching, Al, even when we were one-to-one iPads trying to, and this was well before, Apple Classroom was available to launch things and whatnot. Getting a student to use a QR code, for example, it would still take you a good 30 seconds. And those students at the back of the devices, the camera wasn't good enough to read the QR code, even if it was on a big screen, from the back of the classroom. Those little bits and the ease at which you can do it means that you can focus on your central job of teaching and their learning. And the thing is, Al, good tech, as you know, it is invisible, really. You want it to just be something you use just as part of your teaching and learning toolkit, just like you want to use, a protractor or a compass at a certain point when it's relevant and right to use it. So you want that technology to be just as easily understood and usable at the right points in time. And that's just so lovely to have that. And what's great, I think, as well, Al, and whether this is an intended or unintended consequence, but, if I was teaching and I was going back to school and I was in my bubble in my computing classroom teaching in September when people go back to school, probably, what's great for me as teacher is to know that whether I'm teaching remotely from my study or whether I'm teaching from the front of my classroom or whether I'm teaching from a place in one side of the school where students are in another place on another side of the school or wherever, my interface, and regardless of what devices the students are using, it's the same everywhere. So there's no extra learning to take place. There's no extra training that's required. We learn how to use the word product, and it's all there in one place, isn't it?
I think it's been a really important lesson because this model does follow through, which is, it's not effective, although sometimes it's appropriate, but it isn't always effective to have one tool for one scenario and then a completely different tool to achieve the same thing for another scenario. So in an ideal world, having one tool that's adaptable absolutely ticks a box. I think recent events have shown us, that like most things, you know, sometimes you need this catalyst to be forced to try new ways of working. And some of those things become sticky, and you'll hopefully be reflective and maintain them moving forward. And other things you'll find they weren't that effective, and you'll rightly drop them. And I've had conversations within my schools and in some of the trusts specifically about, you know, even if we get post-COVID and COVID becomes a conversation point about the past rather than a current topic, there are lessons in terms of interactivity and how the tools can be used more effectively that I hope will be with us indefinitely. And conversations like, if we have to close again on a snow day, would it not be unreasonable for a member of staff at home, snowed in, to at least have a quick live synchronous conversation with their class or their year group to give them a bit of a guide on what they need to be doing when they're at home today? I appreciate they'll probably want to get outside and explore the snow and have some fun, and that's all appropriate. But there's a chance to actually set a few expectations for things they could also do during the day. We've got loads of our staff who every Easter give up loads of their Easter holidays to come in and do GCSE revision classes and A-level revision classes. And you kind of stop and think, did they need to come in? And did the students need to come in? Or could they have done that from home and not lost 2 hours of the day traveling? They've already given up their valuable time to support our young learners. And that comes back then to those marginal gains, doesn't it? You know, it's actually, we could collectively, at the appropriate times where it's relevant, forget COVID, but still use some of this technology in a more effective way, whether it's for training or whether it's for teaching. And I think that's the thing that we're all trying to reflect on now and unpick what are the good things and what are the bad things. And that's why I wanted to kind of stress, you know, it's not the panacea to everything. It's not a solution that fixes something or gives you perfect classes. What it does is it provides schools and teachers with choice. If you think it's appropriate for you, if you think it's appropriate for this lesson with this cohort, there's a reliable platform that will allow you to do what you want to do. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Teams. I'm a big fan of Hangouts and Zoom. And it's great that I can interact with people in one direction. But using the analogy of that simple URL, I want to go to this web page, this resource class, the amount of time that's spent with it, are you all on it yet? Are you there yet? Are you there yet? To quickly be able to see everyone's screens and know they're there yet because you sent them there automatically. Those are the little things you certainly don't think of as your priorities and what do I need for an effective lesson. But actually, they're the things that are the difference between that pace being maintained through learning or those kind of distractions and interruptions.
That's it. And unpicking it further, Al, actually, there are, again, whether or not these are intended or unintended consequences, but, you know, thinking about teaching and learning and research behind what works, you know, self-regulation, as I'm sure you're aware, is something which is hugely important. But, you know, kids are kids. They are easily distracted, whether they're working from home or whether they're working in school. And so the ability to lock them into whitelisted specific sites, so they can't be, you know, dipping off into somewhere else. So even if you don't have everything whitelisted into the spaces that you want them to go, you can see when they're going off task, and having all that available to you. Now, again, is massively helpful. Using the questioning tool, not just for assessment for learning, but for using it for like little well-being check-ins at the start of a remote lesson. How are you feeling? You know, good, not too bad, rubbish. You know, again, you're seeing the results. It's a great way of you sort of like just touching base. There are so many ways in which, because it's not prescriptive about the things you can put in there, but it's adaptable to the choices and ways in which you want to use it. It's great. Victoria's mentioning similar things as well here. She's saying EdTech possibilities are out there. Teachers are more confident in using them now. And she said how COVID has turned how we teach on its head, and we can actually teach differently. You know, there's been so much concern prior to COVID about, and these are arguments we hear, well, did hear regularly, that it won't work, it's going to be a distraction, it's not going to support us. But actually, using tools in simple ways, well, and that less is more approach as well, has been hugely impactful and powerful. So it's lovely to see all that sort of stuff resonating within all of that, Al. I'm just mindful of the time, because I don't want people to be sort of spending all of their holidays listening to me and you chatting about Classroom.Cloud. If you don't know, viewers, if you want to find out more about Classroom.Cloud, the website address is really easy. It is just Classroom.Cloud. You found it. There you go. Terrible. I think the subscribe button's down there, but it might be over there. I never know where to point, Al. Don't worry about it. But in terms of costing of things, you talked about it being quite a cheap thing. Is there information about that sort of thing to help teachers or schools or business managers find out whether it's affordable?
Yeah, I mean, we put the information nice and square on the website. You know, I'm happy to we're talking here. You know, I'm well aware of school budgets and challenges. So the cost of the software is £2.50 a device for the year, and we're just keeping it as simple as that. $3 if you're American, depending on who's listening into our conversation. But we recognise that actually this isn't a window where we can start charging, you know, pricing for technology that we might do for some of our other mature products. But actually, this is about being something that's low cost and giving schools the opportunity to have that, either to start using straight away this term, or to start building their insurance policy if they're in a region where maybe they're going to move back into lockdown or have other challenges.
I love that that's transparent as well. You know, in my role as leading on EdTech in school and head of computing and all those different things over the years, it used to do my head in. I'd hear from somebody about a great product. I want to find out how much it costs. I go to the website and there's like 10 layers of forms I got to fill in to find out. And then got to have a sales meeting with somebody for 50. It used to do my head in. Having a single.
Sorry, Mark.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, some products require a bit more information, but we felt if you're going to take the philosophy of this is simple and transparent, you've got to take that ethos right the way through. And nobody wants to invest the time, even in something simple, in trying it if they don't yet know whether they can afford it. And so keeping it a very simple flat unit price just means, look, you've got the information you need, try it for free, you know what it's going to cost you, evidence it will work for you, and if you have confidence, then happy days from our point of view.
That's really cool, Al. So for those who aren't aware, you can follow Al on Twitter at Al Kingsley. I think if you didn't catch the name of all those schools, which were imaginatively titled Kingsley Academy, Kingsley Primary, and that's Al Kingsley _edu on Twitter. A shout out as well, Al. Thank you. I've not done a live announcement about this, but I've been tweeting about it some time. I started a project with old friend Ronan McNichol called Global EdTech. So I'm really pleased to say that Al's one of our Global EdTech authors as well. He also blogs on his own school trustee blog. For all the stuff that Al does in terms of work with NetSupport, I think you probably do more work outside of NetSupport, supporting schools, the Regional Schools Commission, everything that you do, Al. I'm sure the OBE is coming soon, mate. I
doubt it.
Please do follow Al if you're not doing so already on social media. He's a great follow and always plenty of sage advice, and always very happy to jump in the conversation, whether you've got one follower or 1,000 or 10,000. He's a good guy, is Al, and I'm really proud to be associated with NetSupport and to have this opportunity to do the sort of things like we're doing right now, mate. So thank you so much for giving it some time. And I want to have a little play around with it myself now.
I can see a special prize.
That's a question, actually. Is there a way in which I could actually, as someone, because it would be difficult for like a network manager to sort of trial something with a dummy class right now during the holidays. Is there the ability to have a little play around with Classroom.Cloud? Is that something that can be done?
Well, I mean, we can both do demos. We can get people to come and have a demo onto our kit. The nice thing about it is, because although we provide the tools for you to quickly push out the MSI if you're a Windows environment or the Chromebook stuff, if you're just at home with a PC and a Chromebook or a PC and a laptop, whatever you've got, you can just download the exe onto your Windows device and use that as a student, or you can just go straight across to the Google App Store and download the extension manually on one device to test it. Of course, the internet has no boundaries, so you can test it with a friend who's in the next town if you want to. Two of you as teachers can have a go with each other with it. Or, I mean, we've got a live chat feature on the website. We've got obviously a message feature. Talk to us, and if necessary, we'll point one of our devices to your network so you can have a play with it and see what it looks like. you know, I always think if there's a will, there's a way, and that's what we're about.
Awesome stuff. Well, I'll start to wrap things up now. Thanks, Kat, for giving us some time of your day. Thank you to Toria for joining us as well. Shout out to Matt Holly as well, who's joining us. Matt Holly was at River Tees Matt Owl, and he did a fantastic presentation at the Frog Conference on Tuesday, actually. Never closed, and had students work, say, some of the most difficult situations and sort of life situations for some of the students that Matt works with. As I visited the River Tees Matt when I was doing a little tour of schools that utilise Frog, and absolutely fantastic work being done at the schools. So Matt, if you wanted to find out more about this, I'd say drop Al a line or give me a shout. I'm very happy to sort of bring you together. If you go to Classroom.Cloud, as Al said, Matt, there's a little live chat feature on the site as well. If you want to follow up on any of that with him or his team, then that is something you can do very, very easily. But for now, just want to say thank you to everyone for coming along, and most importantly, thank you to Al for taking up some time, in your very busy day with all the plates that you spin, for joining with me today. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to sign off now. Take care. Take care. Your day. And we'll see you very soon for another episode of my live streams on my YouTube channel. Learn Live UAE starting very soon. UK Edu Stories coming back soon as well. More to come on that in the coming days. Thank you so much. Cheers.